These former admissions officers have been asked to evaluate this IvyWise student's college application essays. Catch up on part 1 so you don't miss their profile evaluation.
Hello, my name is Christine, and I'm a college admissions counselor with IvyWise. I'm also a former admissions counselor at Boston University.
Hello, folks. My name is Kayon. I'm a counselor here at IvyWise, and most recently, I was in the admissions office at MIT.
Hi, my name is Katie, and I am a college admissions counselor with IvyWise, as well as a former admissions counselor at MIT.
So as an admissions counselor, you've seen the transcript, you've looked at the testing, we've gotten a picture of the extracurriculars, and here comes one of my favorite parts, right? We're getting to that personal statement. This is what students spend so much time on trying to tell their story. So I'll give you just a second to kind of glance over this here. I know it's quite a bit of content, but we wanted to just capture some of what we have here. The student is going to put you in the midst of an experience that they're having, right? They are engaged in the hospital space. We see that from the extracurriculars, and they're sharing actually a really difficult time that they've had with finding somebody who has passed. So a very jarring opening statement, an opening paragraph as we move in here. But then the student does a really good job of taking it back to them, who they are, what it's meant for them, and a little bit of what's driving them as they talk about their family, the hours they've spent in school and extracurriculars. So I'm starting to get a picture of the student. Through the transcript, Katie also highlighted some of those advanced language courses. We're seeing how the student plays with that as well, how they engage with their own language ability. And so now we're seeing, that's something that is a strength of the student that's coming from the myriad and diverse background that they have. And so I'm really starting to put together a picture here of who they are, who is in the world around them, and where they ultimately want to go in terms of this legacy. I don't know if you folks found some bits and pieces from this that really stood out to you, but just kind of giving folks that high level overview. I'd love to hear, Christy, maybe you had some thoughts on what you were reading here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree. I think this is a strong first draft and definitely provides a lot of good material to work with. I appreciate that this student chose to write about an experience that they had that directly relates to their interest in the medical field. This is not necessary and not something we look for as admissions counselors, but when it's done well, it can really be a nice way to further highlight the student's overall story and narrative. As I was reading this draft, though, I did get a bit distracted by that jarring opening with the 53-year-old patient lying on the operating table. And to be honest, it was a bit distracting, and I lost sight of how this particular experience impacted the student and shaped their view on legacy, and made sure they answered that prompt around sparking growth or gaining a new understanding of themselves or others. I did appreciate how this student spoke about their diverse upbringing and how growing up in a melting pot of culture impacted them and their viewpoints. I also liked how the student weaved in details about her character traits, such as challenging the status quo, playing devil's advocate at the dinner table. It was able to provide some more insight into her that I don't see anywhere else in the application. And then I also like that the student brought in their favorite painting, which, helps highlight their intellectual breadth and depth beyond just their interest in pre-medicine. I definitely think there are some ways that IvyWise can help them strengthen this essay, though, that we'll dive into in a few minutes.
So yeah, Christine, I agree with so many of the points that you brought up about that first draft, and it's great to see what this final draft looks like. And I know how much work went into transitioning from that first version to what you see here. I think with that first version, and this is so common with students when they write that first draft of their personal statements, it's like, I must fit everything in. I need to try and get every piece of who I am into the essay. And that ends up not being the best way to approach your personal statement. You want to kind of zoom in on something in your personal statement that is emblematic of who you are as a greater person. And I love, love, love this final draft that she has here. I will admit, reading the first draft, I was kind of like spacing out, and I'm like, must stay focused and keep reading. And this one, it kept me like engaged through every single word that she was saying. I really, really love the kind of narration and the narrative vehicle that she has here, where it's like, okay, I'm taking you through my MRI, and here's this part of my body, and this part of my body, and this part of my body, and then how that connects to other themes in her life or things that she wants admissions officers, the readers, to learn about her. And I feel like I get such a good snapshot of who she is that I'm like even more excited. And that's exactly what you want out of a personal statement. You want your admissions officers to get really excited to see the rest of your application. And so that's something that really jumped out to me here, is sort of the story she's taking me on during this essay. And that she's able to go a lot more in depth into a couple of different things versus trying to get everything into one essay. Other things that, Kayon, that you like about this final draft here?
Yeah. I think one thing that I noticed from that first draft was the background and the family piece was sprinkled a little bit here and there. And to your point, I had to pull it together and try and pick it out. And I really want to highlight to folks that when we are reading applications, as Christine said, 1,000+ applications in a season, it's go, go, go. And so we really appreciate when it is clear, and she's done an excellent job of just pulling that together. My mother has this background, my father has this background. This is how it's come together to make me the person who I want to be. 3 sentences, and I have seen her. And so that, I think, was an amazing way to add. That was a little thing that cleaned up the actual flow of the essay, which has gotten me excited about each paragraph. So that was just another little thing that I think she did excellently.
So I also appreciated how the writer was able to organize her essay as she went through the various MRI images and wrote about how they related to her unique experiences and perspective. I also appreciated how she was able to give us specific examples that really painted the picture for the reader of what it was like to grow up in a multicultural home, instead of just saying it as she did in the first essay. I talk a lot to my students a lot about how we want their writing to really show us what they are trying to say with descriptors and specific examples rather than tell us. And I think this final draft really did a nice job with that.
So as an admissions counselor, we have that personal statement that really sets the tone for the application, who the student is, and the story that they want us to learn. But as an admissions officer in a certain office, I really want to understand why my institution. What have you done in terms of what would be a good fit for us on campus, and your research? Have you really proven that you want to join us here? And so I'd love to jump into her supplemental essays now and understand what she's really been able to do that's school specific. And I think this one's a great one to start with. So many of the institutions that this student is targeting have strong residential life, and that's the case here at Stanford. As is a very common draft, you have what's called the roommate essay. You're writing a letter to your future roommate, letting them know, what is it like to live with me, right? Do I snore? Am I a morning person? Am I messy? And this is a great way for students to have their voice really heard and to connect. And so we will tell our students you are writing it as if you are speaking to your future roommate, and us as admissions officers are getting a peek there. And so just a beat here for you to take a look and see what it is that the student has chosen to share with that future roommate. Right. So as we started out here, she starts with height. That's something that's notable. That's something that the roommate's going to notice as she comes in with all her suitcases. And so she wants to get ahead of that and just let them know what we're coming from. Then she is getting into the routine that she's hoping the student can kind of join them with. These are the things I like. This is how I want to get involved. And this is how you would be engaged here. So if you're not excited about getting dragged out of bed in the morning, now would be the time to express that objection. Then she gets a little bit into her interests. We haven't talked much about dance because she had these different interests. And so she wants to share that here. This is just the first draft. And I know she was trying to put, again, so many things down on paper. But Christine, are there any opportunity areas you're seeing here? Things that she could maybe shift or tighten up a bit?
Sure. Yeah, I thought the first draft was nice, very pleasant to read. And I felt like I gained insight into this student that, wasn't anywhere else in her application. And I think it's important to remember why colleges are asking students this supplemental question. So, sure, they're looking to build a well-rounded freshman class of extremely academically driven, intellectually curious people, but also good people, good roommates who are going to add to their campus community. And as Kayon mentioned, a vibrant residential life. A lot of students ask about formality or casualness in these kind of essays. And I think, there's really no right or wrong way to write this type of essay. Um, I think that we could definitely tighten it up a bit, write a bit more succinctly, which I think she does do when we take a look at her final draft. Um, and one area I also thought that this student could potentially do is related to Stanford in some way, highlight whether there's a particular club, organization, something happening on campus that she's excited to get involved in or hopes to do, in her free time together with her roommate.
I love this essay or this essay prompt. So often in the committee room at MIT, we would have a conversation of like, do you want this person as your roommate? And so this is a chance to show how you are going to be a great roommate. And there's not strategy, I guess I would say to that, except letting some of your personality shine through and really using this essay as a chance to showcase things that they're not going to learn in other parts of your application. I'm not going to know that she's a Swiftie from any other part of her application. I'm not going to know that she also loves croissant or is going to eat granola, Greek yogurt, and honey for breakfast. Like there's some fun little tidbits in there that I can sink my teeth into as an admissions officer that I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to remember this little thing. And I'm also like, oh, you're 5'11", you're very tall. And so there's lots of great specifics. And my big feedback for this is honestly just tightening this up because it's a little over 300 words and the word limit is 250. So let's hop over and we'll take a look at the final draft where the student did exactly that. She trim some things down, said a few things a little bit more concisely. And I think she does a fantastic job of keeping those quirky little details about herself in here. And it's just overall tighter. So I still get to see that she's a Swiftie. I'm glad she didn't take that out. I know she's from an all-girls high school. She likes to sew. These little aspects of her as a creative person come through. And it's just overall tighter. Anything else that jumps out to you, Kayon, in this final draft?
Yeah. I think I also appreciated how she took what she was sharing and gave context. So she's like, I am a dancer. This is what that looks like for us, in a room. I went to an all-girls school. That means my closet is Sue closet. And so she's just very much excited to share. And you really got the enthusiasm. Like, I feel like this is a room that I'd love to be in. And I want to highlight, you talked about the personality, the human piece. If I'm reading this going, wait, I'm a Swiftie, can I come have croissants? Like, I also feel that these are the kind of folks that I'd want to, be roommates with and really enjoy on campus. That's always a win. So I think she did a really great job of being very human in a way that's very endearing to me as a reader.
All right, so let's take a look at the UT Austin supplement. So the prompt, why are you interested in the major you indicated as your first choice major? So this is a common supplemental essay prompt, and it's really an opportunity for students to highlight their intellectual curiosity and their interests. And it's important that you're really thinking about and answering the prompt in its entirety. So you want to write about not only what major you're particularly drawn to, but what specifically about that major excites you. And then if you can weave in some of your extracurricular experience over the last 4 years during your high school to solidify why you're interested in that program and why you're a particular good fit for it. I think that's certainly a way to stand out with this kind of essay prompt. So, Kayon and Katie, what do you guys think about this first draft here?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic first draft. I like that, by the second sentence of the second paragraph, I can see biology there. I will admit, whenever I'm reading these types of essays, I'm quickly scanning to be like, what do you want to major in? Okay. And then that frames how I approach reading, the rest of the essay. I think she's got so many fantastic specifics in here, like the transplant immunology that goes back to that 4-year experience she had at NYU doing research internship in the transplant lab. So there's lots of great things that call back to experiences she's bringing to UT and why it is that she's interested in biology. For me, I think that there's again, similar with her personal statement, there's a lot she's trying to pack into this. And I feel like my first feedback for every student on every essay is be more specific. I think looking at how to improve this is maybe picking 1 or 2 specifics from the different examples that she has in here and really like nerding out over them. I loved reading students' essays where I can tell they're like very, very excited about it. And if they were standing in front of me talking about it, they would be talking very fast and like probably lots of hands moving and being very excited about the subject. And I think she spreads herself a little thin with how many things she's trying to fit into this. What about you, Christine? Anything that you feel like she could improve for the next draft?
Yeah, I would agree. Just really tightening it up, writing a bit more succinctly, and as you mentioned, like nerding out about 1 or 2 of these, really unique experiences that she's had, like thinking back to her extracurricular activities list. Just, as an admissions counselor, we want to know more. This essay is for you to really highlight those experiences and show, what differentiates you from a traditional biology major applicant. So I'm excited to see how she does that in the final draft.
So speaking of the final draft, I think one thing that I can add, because I agree with everything else, let's talk about paragraphs and spacing. Just first things first, it really helps to organize the thoughts that she has here. But one thing I think she does an excellent job of, when she talks about her why, I believe her. She talks about doing transplant research. She is, of course, touched on that in her personal statement. That lets me know that is something that is near and dear to her heart/kidneys. She then lets me know that she has been engaged with it for years because we saw that longevity in the extracurriculars. And so now I know this is somebody who is committed to this field, who has been engaged in this field and is very knowledgeable. We talk about your extracurriculars and we encourage folks to use their summers productively. And this is part of why. Exploration for you as a person to see, where you want to go and what you might want to do. But it also helps when you have that strong picture to write this beautiful essay where she's very clear about the experience she has here. And she's then able to tell me about the research that she's done because she's really been involved in it. And so this is one of those where she's telling me about the past experience that happened in that personal statement that is setting the tone there, and then what she's doing in the present to finalize her goals of ultimately, advancing transplant medicine. And so this is just a very cohesive narrative throughout the entire application, which is always exciting to see.
Something else I want to draw attention to is you're writing a lot of essays for colleges, and many schools are going to ask this type of question, or they're going to ask, why do you want to study this major at my school? And this is a great, I think, foundation for her to use to then say, okay, let me go and make this work for a school that does ask, why do you want to do biology at this school? I love some of the specifics that she has in here, like engineering biological scaffolds. Don't know what that is. Sounds really cool and nerdy. Again, like not a STEM background, but this is fantastic and really gives me as an admissions officer something to kind of sink my teeth into. And if she's using this for other supplemental essays with a similar question, it's like, okay, let me go and find immunology professors at this school that are doing this, or labs that are working on research in this area, and being able to show kind of that match with this individual school. So this is a great essay for UT, and I think it's a great essay to be able to use for other schools that ask similar or very similar questions.
I agree with you both here. I also appreciated how she dove a little bit deeper into the paper that she co-authored and really got into the specifics around what it was about, what the impact was, and really why she was drawn to that research and paper. I think one thing that potentially she could do to strengthen this essay, and you just alluded to it, Katie, is if we can tie it to UT Austin in some way, find either a program on campus, a professor doing specific research, a course she's interested in taking, just to showcase why UT Austin is a good match for her. College admissions counselors know that you're writing many, many applications, lots of supplemental essays. But if you can just take a few extra minutes to do some research on the school and really highlight why it's a great fit for you, that's just another way to stand out in a competitive applicant pool.
Great. So our final supplemental essay that we are going to dig into today is also a very common question for many different types of supplements. And one I like to reference when I'm having early conversations with students in 9th and 10th grade who are like, what do I do for community service? I need to be nice to my community. I need to do something. I'm like, well, let's think about ahead. How would you think about the positive impact that you have made on your community? So UNC asked just that question here, and many, many other schools ask that similar type of question of how have you made the world around you a better place? And this student here, grabs me right away because Spanish, boom, that's different than I've been reading in every other application or every other essay that I'm reading here. And I think there's a lot of fantastic strengths that she brings into this. What are some of the things, Christine, that jump out to you within this essay?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's a strong first draft. I appreciate how this student, when she wrote about her personal qualities, she wrote about, the ability to interact with patients through her experiences and what that meant to her. I think knowing she's interested in pre-medicine and likely, pursuing biology, she's had these great experiences. And through this essay, she was able to showcase how a patient confided in her in a medical setting. And that just highlights this student's ability to connect with others, which is something that's very important if she is going on to pursue medical school and ultimately become a physician interacting with patients, on a daily basis.
Excellent points. You guys are right. This is a very, very common topic, and students are always freaked out about what they should do. But I think she does an excellent job of bringing in yet another element of herself here. The language we touched on from the curriculum and the transcripts, we saw that this was her background. But to your point, Christine, knowing that she's going into the pre-medical field, this is somewhere where she will need to interact with people of varied backgrounds. And she does an excellent job of already setting me up to see her in that space and to see her successfully navigating it. So she really tightened up her anecdotes here. She talked about the concerns that she's getting from, patients within this community, and then how she's able to persuade him. She talks about seeking that repair, about connecting with him. And that's something that she does a really good job of. I know there's 250 words or less for you to say how fantastic you are, but she's really able to give me a picture. I'm sitting in that clinic with her. And I think that's something that she does really well, while highlighting that she is somebody who is thoughtful about the system that she's going to be working in and how she can make those individual improvements and impact. So that's always a win. This was one of my favorite prompts, and I really love to see how she tackled it.
I love what you just said there, Kayon, about the systems. That's what I think works really well as also in this essay is she zooms in on this interaction and then zooms out to, okay, how does this impact the broader systemic issue that I'm seeing here, and thinking about, okay, here is the 30,000 foot view of this after I've given you the 10-foot view, the 5-foot view, 6 feet, I don't know. So that's something I love here and is always fantastic to do in essays, is kind of all right, you've told me this thing, so what? Why does this matter for you? Why does this matter for society? Why does this matter for how you are going to engage with opportunities at UNC, at another school? Connecting it to kind of that broader impact, so it's not just that small micro issue, but you're looking at things on the macro level as well. So another winner for her.
She's thriving. And I think that actually brings us closer to the end. I'm sure you folks have been wondering, like, okay, fine, we have the supplements, we have the essays, we have the grades. Where is this student going to end up in the fall? And so we will not, we won't have you waiting any longer. Let's talk about some of the results. So before we even get into the results, I want to highlight that as an IvyWise counselor, one of the first things that we're going to do with you is help you with a balanced school list. I'm underscoring the word balance. So we talk about her top 3 choices as a reminder, being Stanford, UNC Chapel Hill, and the UT Austin, that's University of Texas in Austin. Those are all highly selected institutions. However, she did have a balanced list of multiple schools. And so I'm happy to share that she did indeed get into all of her top 3 choices. She's very excited about that. But she also targeted Georgetown, Boston College, the University of Virginia, where she also gained acceptance, as well as University of Wisconsin-Madison, and then Rutgers. So she has quite a few options that she can choose from: large schools, smaller schools, just that private versus public. And so she has decided that she will be enrolling at Stanford in the fall. So congratulations to her after all of her hard work. Can't wait to see what she does in the future.
Congratulations to this young woman. We hope you enjoyed this video and found our commentary and discussion to be insightful. Please remember to like and subscribe. And at IvyWise, we have over 440 years of combined experience at some of the world's top institutions. So check out our website to learn more about our admissions counseling, tutoring, test prep, and research services, and for a plethora of resources to help you get your college prep on track.
Contact IvyWise today to learn more about our services, including our signature roundtable, which simulates the real-world admissions committee evaluation process.